The Rockpile Report, the pettiest, hardest drinking Bills podcast. Season's over. Back to being able to do After Darks. We have our trusty old fashions. I gave you Blue Note Rye.
Ooh,
I've
been waiting to try that.
I have some Pennsylvania Rye in mine.
Oh, that's a good cocktail.
Here's something. I'm a little ahead of you, even though I don't have children, because I had to do this last week, and I figured I could do it in one night, and I couldn't. I might have been able to do it in one night, but I've fucked up along the way, putting in a piece incorrectly. I can't wait for the time that you have to put together a fucking bunk bed. I had to put together a bunk bed for Benton.
All I can picture is Step Brothers.
Yeah, well, it wasn't like we didn't order one where hockey sticks were the legs, but like we had like Benny's room, I believe, is on like the smaller side, so we had to get rid of the old bed, move stuff around so that we have space, because you're not building a bed out in the family room and then carrying it into the room. You're building it within the confines of the room that it's going in. And sure as shit, had a couple of fuck-ups along the way, and it's like, all right, first of all, here's one of the things. They didn't manufacture one of the bedposts correctly. So you put together a headboard, you put together the next headboard, and when you're doing the bed legs, you're like, wait a second, this is supposed to be like this. So the rail of the bed that holds the mattress fits in. Mm-hmm. And it's incorrect. It's manufactured incorrectly. So where you have to have you put in 2 dowels, and the dowels line up, and then you put the screw in.
Yeah, I've built a lot of bullshit IKEA furniture.
We've had to do that the opposite. We had to turn that away. So there's one bedpost has the screw going into it, but there's no dowels. And then when I got the because it's like a full size bed, and then up top is a twin. Mm-hmm. And we got the fold together, and I'm like, all right, this shouldn't take long to put the top part of the bunk together. And if I didn't flip the top board for the headboard, so now the holes don't line up that the bunk bed is supposed to go in. So I'm like, I got to leave it. I got to come back the next day, take apart the headboard so that you could actually attach the bunk bed to the top. It is a pain in the ass to do. And this was my suggestion for bunk beds, because Benny's 8 and he's at that point for sleepovers now. So this is where a bunk bed becomes economical. Mm-hmm. He's 8. You keep a bunk bed till you're maybe 13, 14. With the amount of sleepovers you're going to have, it makes sense, and your boys are going to be onto that when they get to that age and when they have friends.
Oh, I don't even know about that age, Chris. I'm going to make my kids share a room as soon as they're like nearing the same developmental level and they're on the same part of the curve together, because they're really only a year and a half apart. I'm going to put them in a room together. You know why? Because that's the crucible. That's where you figure out who you really are, and it's how you live or die. You become friends, or you hate each other forever. It's because you share a living space with that human. And everyone goes, no, children need their own space, and they didn't. No. What you need is to have this other person foisted onto you, and to figure out that I need to learn how to get along with that human being or kill that human being. That's it. It's like Highlander. We either do this together or there can be only one. And you figure that out early enough in life, because what that does is it sets you up for the rest of your life. Figuring out that there is no easy way out. You are going to deal with people you don't like in your face all of the time, probably every day for most of your existence.
This is what's going to happen, because if Jack and Tommy are about a year and a half apart, falls in line with myself and my brother Daryl, you're going to have a problem when Jack is in 9th grade and Tommy is in 8th grade. Or, I mean, I don't know if they're going to be 1 grade apart, but that dynamic of Tommy being in 8th grade and Jack being freshman or sophomore in high school. And if they share a room then, you're going to have punches will be thrown.
Sure.
The way I know that you raise your children, punches will be thrown. Because Daryl and I did not get along throughout his tenure of high school because of our different social dynamics. He had friends, I didn't. It changed.
Shocker. Says the guy wearing a jacket indoors with his hair done.
It changed after college.
Yeah. And that's the idea. I want that conflict. Conflict resolution and how you deal with hard times defines you as a person. It helps prove your mettle, and it makes you a better person. I firmly believe that. I dealt with it. We all dealt with it. I fought my brothers constantly. There's photos of a Christmas where me and my brothers are literally rolling around on my parents' kitchen floor. And the only real understanding between all of us was no closed-fisted punches in the face. Because Mom likes photos, and you can't disrupt that. In fact, it was my wife's first Christmas with my family. We reenacted 4 Christmases, but it was real. This wasn't hack. It's almost like that episode of How I Met Your Mother, which is a show I don't even really like. But there was one where they were like, I think his name's Marshall, or whatever. Maybe I'm just thinking that because remember the tall Jason Segel from Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Yeah.
His character in that show, How I Met Your Mother, is talking about how me and my brothers used to fight each other. And, like, everybody has these visions, like, as they're imagining what that's like, because Marshall's such a nice guy, of, like, they pillow fight, and they wrestle and give noogies. And then they see the brothers fight, and it's like, oh my God, that guy's fish hooking that guy. It's like, yeah, because we fight. I love them, but I'll also fight them all at the drop of a hat. And that was how we lived. And I think that a lot of it had to do with proximity. And I think that builds character.
I do like that you just said a minute ago, oh, my mom likes photos, so no hitting in the face. You've never been to an orthodontist. Dude, how does your mom like photo? I like photos. Yet my oldest son has the most fucked up teeth.
I literally fought against him. I remember the conversation. They were like, you should really get braces. And I was like, no, I'll look like an idiot. And then I was 22 going, God, I look like an idiot. So here we are, we're after dark. It feels good to flex this muscle again, to just be able to freewheel.
Well, how tense was the end of the season? I mean, we're doing 3 shows a night.
Oh, you and I almost killed each other multiple times.
Exactly.
It was awesome.
So measure...
See, I like that because I enjoy the conflict.
Measure those nights that we've had the last, 2 months, winning streak, playoffs, versus tonight where we just did one podcast and then this after dark. Is it not better?
Yeah.
We're not at each other. There's no I don't feel the tension of we got Alf at this time, Scott at this time, Christian at this time. That gives us this time to do the preview show, and this a lot of time.
As you're talking about this, all I'm picturing is Always Sunny in Philly. Yeah. I don't know, Eastbound and Down, where he goes, hoo, do you feel the tension in the room right now? That was you and me.
Yeah.
Laisel was here for a show, and you and I literally had it out that night in front of Laisel. It was like Dad threw a plate of spaghetti on the wall. There was just a bystander who had to sit here and see it. we're not, like, you and I handle, I guess because I'm wired to handle things in a very confrontational manner. And I'm also wired to meet challenges and suffering head on. Now, I thank my dad for that, because realistically, life is tough. And if you don't get tough, you probably suffer a lot more, or at least you think you're suffering more than if you can just gut some things out. Because you know that life is struggle and that there are some things that aren't going to be fair and they happen to you and you just got to deal with them. And that's kind of the crux of tonight's thing. Like, what have we been going for? About 7 minutes, 8 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. How do people deal with things that aren't fair? How do you deal with suffering? How do you react to moments of pressure? And that tells you a lot about a person. Now, like I said, I know, we talked about it during our recap show. In moments like Sunday, I'll lose us 200-300 Twitter followers at a clip. And it doesn't matter to me, because none of this matters to me. I like doing this. I like sitting here talking to you. This is all catharsis. Now, other people expect us to take that seriously. They're like, you have a responsibility. You're on Twitter. You're embarrassing yourself. So what? I am an embarrassment. Big deal. I'm still here. You can't eat me. I'm going to live. But what were some times, like, Chris, how do you handle moments of real emotional crisis? Like when you're really either angry or sad. I want to talk about one of each. What's a time when you were really sad and you handled it poorly?
Yeah. Oh, God.
Because I feel like all of our fan base has done this all week long. Everyone's been handling this poorly. I want to talk about it. What's a time you were really upset and you handled it poorly?
There's different, you could do different, there's different levels of it. Is it you lose your job? That's going to give me a different emotion than if I'm having
do you want me to break
argument with Jessica.
So do you want me to break the ice? How about this?
All right.
When I was in college, I dated a girl who was
this
still
Rhode Island?
Yes, I dated a girl who was still in high school. And when we split up, I didn't take it well. Part of it was the way it happened, some of it, but I'm not innocent in the way that it happened. So here I am, like an idiot, not knowing how to process this emotionally. I literally took a night sober. I'm 19. I can't legally buy beer. I drove to her parents' house because I was like, oh, she's home for summer. Like, I'll go park in her driveway and I'll play sad music until she comes outside and talks to me. Do you know what happened? Her father came out with no shirt on, in his underwear, like boxer, I'll never forget it, gray boxer briefs, and walks up to my window and goes, Drew, what the hell are you doing here? And I was like, I'm sorry, Scott. And he goes, she's not even home. Like, she's not even here. You've been sitting out here for an hour. What are you doing? And I could see in his eyes, like, he was kind of mad, but he also just felt bad for me. He was like, oh, no. I must be the most pathetic person on earth. I go, don't worry. I'm sorry. And I did the slow reverse out of the driveway. That moment haunts me to this day. In terms of, like, how do you handle...
I get into, like, relationship emotion stuff like that.
Well, you're not a normal human being. You don't have human emotions, so
I tend to not eat or drink.
Not eat.
I just, it's one of those things. I lose my appetite, and it is. I just can't eat. I can't drink. But it's like different if have an emotion of, like, if I'm lose a job, you just fucking go home and pound liquor as soon as you get home. I did that. That's my method of handling, like, losing a job.
Do you think that's what Vic Fangio is doing right now in that stupid bucket hat of his? Like that stupid Bahamas hat?
Yeah.
He's at home right now in his pool with a pina colada just hammered, wearing that stupid Miami Dolphins hat. So, fired is funny. I've only been fired a few times. Once, when I was in high school, and my dad got me a job washing dishes at the only restaurant, like sit-down restaurant in North Collins. And it was hilarious because the reason I got fired was because the night before we closed up the restaurant. And I'm supposed to mop the floors and then dry mop. Put all the chairs up, mop the floors, dry mop. And I just literally, my friends wanted to go do something, and I kicked over a bucket of water on the floor and just slung it around and was like, it'll dry, and I'm out of here. And I show up in the morning, and Joe's like, this is like the 9th thing you've botched. I gotta let you go. And he's got an envelope of cash for me, because it was all the money he owed me for the week. And he goes, I hate to have to tell your dad that I fired you. It's like, it's all right. He'll get over it. Like, I was nonplussed the very first time I got fired. I felt nothing. Then there was getting fired from this collection agency. And again, I was nonplussed. Like, they had put me on the dialer team, which if anybody has ever done anything in a call center, you know that they literally just have you on a headset, and I'm working with people who are in their 60s going, oh no, I'm 23. I'm working with the 60-year-olds. That's not good. And I remember that day when they fired me, being on the phone with my dad going, I'm on the dialer team. They're still cutting checks to me as if I'm a productive employee. They're paying me way more than they should be to be doing this. I'm shocked they haven't fired me yet. And then they bring me in the office and they try to give me this, like, have you ever had the speech where you're being fired but they're trying to be nice about it? Don't do that.
Oh, I had that. I was working at, back in 07, 08, perfect time to get into mortgages. I was at MetLife Home Loans.
You are bad luck schleprock. Yeah. The whole mortgage crisis is your fault.
It's not my fault. So I got brought in to, they wanted to get new people in the door, so they thought, all right, because you don't need a college degree to do home loans. So it's like, all right, well, let's bring some people in. We'll put them under our top earners and get them in the door that way. That way they can learn and then be on their own. So I got put with a guy that retired a month after I got there. So then I got placed with the manager of the office, and he fired me by calling me into his office, and he, based on the times, he goes, Chris, I think I'm going to have to let you go. And I go, okay. I'm going to go back into my cubicle and keep working. If you need to let me go, you tell me I have to let you go. Don't tell me to come in here and then you go, so you haven't decided yet. So I'm going to go back to work, and when you decide, you let me know. That's how that went.
Rain Man. I'm telling you.
I think I'm going to have to let you go. All right, well, let me know when you decide.
It's always funny, thinking about emotional things. I can remember relationships that broke up and I didn't handle them well. Emotions are hard to process. Luckily now, like we talked about during our recap show, I have Twitter. I just dump all my negative thoughts about the Buffalo Bills just on Twitter. And people get mad. It's why our Twitter handle is stuck perpetually at 5,000 followers. Because every time we start flirting with a higher number, I'll lose 300-400 at a clip. Just on a bad Sunday after the Bills lose to the Broncos in the game, and I'll burn it down. I'll say a lot of egregious things. I'll say some, and then people are like, you shouldn't think that because of XYZ. And I tell them, I don't give a fuck what you think, because I don't get paid for that. I don't care what you think. I'm just here. I exist because I have to have this thing. And that hurts people's feelings.
Yeah, because you waterboard all your friends and your wife.
But so now Twitter's become the thing. Now I don't waterboard anybody.
And this. This is your outlet for waterboarding people.
I have to, I have all these thoughts and these opinions they have to get out. There's a lot of things that people don't handle well. Our fan base has not handled this loss well. I don't think they have. I think there's been, like the death threats being made towards Tyler Bass. That's wild. That should never be up for grabs. The fact that people are trash talking Gabe Davis for being hurt on the side of the field and that he's screaming at people on the sideline. You're all a bunch of jerk offs. That's nonsense. There is no world in which, I remember being at a game. It was Bills-Eagles. We were on the lower bowl. We happened to get tickets. It's down there. We're probably about 12 rows up from the rail that separates the apron from where the players sit. And there's these Bills fans who are just talking trash to Trot Thomas. Now, if anybody remembers Trot Thomas, dude was huge. Offensive lineman for the Eagles. This guy finally has enough, and he just reached up and grabbed a guy. Just grabbed him by the front of his shirt. And the look of fear on that guy's face, looking around going, somebody help me! He wasn't dealing with the fact that they were just hammering us. He didn't deal with that well. There are negative consequences to you not handling your emotions well. Sometimes it's just pure embarrassment. Sometimes it's bigger than that.
You know what you could do?
Remember the Doug story? Hang on. Remember the Doug story about how I confronted that guy out in the middle of Tiff Street in South Buffalo?
Sure.
The guy who had a knife and was like, yeah, I'll stab somebody. And he was like, oh, I watched Drew go out there. And yeah, because I was going through something. I was going through some things. And I didn't care what happened to me. I was like, oh, you want to stab somebody? Go ahead. Make my day. That's what happens when you don't process your emotions properly. I've now learned how to compartmentalize better, pack those things away. You take your rage, you set it over here. You take your sadness, you can maybe put it over here. It's a little bit towards the forefront. Then you take your ambivalence, the mild annoyance with things, and you pile that up in the center because that's the most easy to unpack, isn't it?
Yeah. You know what they should do? So if anybody watches the Sabres, you know that they have a thing called, was it Between Two Stalls with Jeff Skinner? It's like a small little web show that the Sabres put on. How do the Bills not get Tyler Bass to do something with Scott Norwood? Make light of the situation. Make a joke out of it. That always seems to work for me.
Tragedy becomes humor.
Yeah. What's the Kyle Kinane
line? Time plus tragedy.
Time plus tragedy equals comedy.
Realistically, the thing I tell myself all the time is that when the Bills win the Super Bowl, we'll look back on this and laugh. We'll look back on these years and we'll laugh about them. About the fact that, okay, so the post-game show for WGR had to 86. I want to say it was, what did they say? It was just under 50% of all of the callers that they got on Sunday night. Either had to dump out of the call, or they had to bypass them completely. Why? Because what they were talking about was either full of profanity or unfit for radio. We do not process our emotions well as a fan base. And I feel like I've got a little bit of a head start on most of you in this regard. Because I've been through a lot of shit. And I've learned how to come out the other side of it in one piece emotionally. Sure, do you have you all get your moment to just thrash and just lash out and be wild and say whatever you want, do things that are damaged. Like, I get it. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to take a deep breath, compose yourself, and move forward. Because if you can't, then your problems start to define you. Right? Chris, the fact that other fan bases make fun of us for the fact that we haven't won a Super Bowl yet, and then we lose all these divisional round games. If you let that bother you, it will define your attitude towards your team, towards a given season. It'll change the way you look at everything. It's about how you respond to emotional distress. All of these people whinging on Twitter and screaming about how you need to fire the head coach and all of these things. I did it. I got it out of my system and I'm done. But just know that I'm in the same boat you are. I did the thing. I'm back in my ex-girlfriend's driveway. I'm trying to be John Cusack with the radio, and it's not working. Like, you're an idiot. I was an idiot. So are you. We all need to get a little bit thicker skin. I really believe that. Because realistically, like, the Eagles just won their first Super Bowl, what, Chris? How many years ago?
2019?
Okay. So, up until then, the great city of Philadelphia was right there next to us in the loser column. Eventually, across a long enough timeline, it's going to happen. Whether I live to see it or not, it's not the point. It's just the idea that the adversity that I'm confronted with, do I handle it graciously or not? And even if you don't handle it graciously, can you get past it? Chris, were you ever dumped? Like, badly?
I mean, what kind of question is that? I mean, I went through a divorce. Where
the worst divorce
Yeah, where she had an affair.
She had an affair, and you'd been married for what, like 6 months?
No, we were married a year and a half.
Okay.
Like, I shattered everything that we had, like...
And you knew that guy!
Yeah.
You knew the guy!
I mean, I shattered everything that we had together.
Sure, but the idea is...
Picture frames and all those sentimental bullshit. I smashed all of them.
Look at this. For people who
and then her cats walked on it.
But so for people...
Enjoy the glass and the paws.
See, that's terrible. See, now you're being mean to just animals. But what I think...
I wasn't mean to them. They should know where they're walking.
What I think is this. You... Like, this thing that you endured is way worse than the Bills losing a divisional game, right?
Yes.
We all have something that's way worse than this. So let's act like it, right? Let's find a little chutzpah. Let's all act like we've been there before. We've embarrassed ourselves. We've acted in ways that we look back on unfavorably. And let's decide to stop being those people. Or at least try. Even if you can't stop, can we just try to be better? That's all I'm asking for. Guys, it's been fun, but Chris, what are we at? Like 20 minutes?
Half hour.
Here we go. Then that's it. That's the message I'm going to leave you with. Let's all just try to be better. And if you can't, I understand. Because I know I'm trying, and this is the best version of me anyone's ever going to see. So, for tonight, I'm Drew Gear, that's Chris Kruger. And this has been the Rockpile Report After Dark.